All right, let's get right into it. Today we're tackling that classic problem that pops up at almost every gaming table, the huge gap between a character who's mechanically powerful and one who has a powerful story. We're going to break down a really common misconception and build a whole new way of thinking from the ground up, turning those numbers on your sheet into a genuine legend.
So here's the core of it, what we call the optimizer's dilemma. You've got the mechanic on one side, that character built for pure, raw power. Every single stat is perfectly calculated. And on the other side, you've got the narrative, a character with a rich backstory and really complex motivations. And for years, the common wisdom has been, you have to pick one. You can't have both. But what if that's just completely the wrong way to look at it?
You know, this whole problem actually has a name, the Stormwind Fallacy. It was named after a player, Tempest Stormwind, who pointed it out. And the argument is pretty simple. Just because someone is great with the game's rules and can build a really effective character, that has absolutely zero to do with their ability to roleplay. One is about system mastery, the other's about acting. They're two totally different skills that don't cancel each other out.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. We've all been there, right? We've seen that one character who's so powerful they just walk all over every challenge. Or the player who seems way more invested in their damage per round than in the actual story that's unfolding. So if this is all just a big fallacy, why does it feel so real when we're playing?
Well, it turns out the fallacy isn't the real problem. It's actually masking a couple of other legitimate issues. The first one is what people call cookie-cutter builds. You know, when there are only a few best options, everyone ends up playing basically the same character. The other issue, and this is a big one, is party imbalance. When one character is a demigod and the rest are, well, not, it becomes a nightmare for the GM to create challenges. But notice something. Neither of these problems have anything to do with how well someone can roleplay.
So what's the fix? The answer isn't to tell people to stop making powerful characters. No way. The answer is to completely change what it means to optimize in the first place. It's time for a new philosophy, a doctrine of synthesis.
The solution is synthesis. And the core idea here is so simple, but it's a real game changer. Your character sheet isn't just a list of stats and numbers. Think of it as the script for your hero's life story. Every single choice you make on that sheet, every feat, every ability score, that's a line from their history. This whole approach rests on three main pillars. First, mechanics as story. Your high constitution isn't just a number, it's the hardened resilience you earn surviving a deadly plague that wiped out your village. Second, progression as trials. You don't just magically ding and hit level 2. No, you earn that level by surviving something that nearly killed you. And third, optimization as identity. A powerful character build doesn't get in the way of role-playing, it enables it. It makes sure your character is tough enough to actually act on their beliefs and, live to tell the tale.
Here's a great way to think about it. That super optimized build you spent hours on, that's the sheet music for an incredible piece. It's got the notes, the structure, the potential for greatness. But you, the player, you're the musician. You're the one who has to actually play that song with passion and bring it to life at the table. And don't worry, this isn't some new complicated homework assignment we're giving you. It's really just about getting back to that raw imagination we all had as kids. You know that feeling when a stick in the backyard wasn't just a stick, it was a legendary sword? We're just channeling that same energy, but applying it to our character sheets.
Okay, so that's the theory. Sounds pretty cool, right? But what does this actually look like in practice? Let's take a common, really powerful character build and see how this synthesis approach can transform it from just a pile of mechanics into a living, breathing legend.
So on the left, you've got your plain mechanic, a Chronergy wizard. They take custom lineage for the free feat, it's efficient, a pure numbers choice. Now look to the right at the synthesized legend. That same choice becomes a bloodline that's been warped by time magic, which explains why they can sense threats before they happen. The mechanic uses chronal shift to force a reroll. The legend, they're a probability regulator, literally editing reality to their liking. And finally, the telekinetic feat isn't just shoving someone, it's spatial deniability, collapsing the very fabric of space. See? Same mechanics, but one of them has a soul.
And that really gets to the heart of it all. A 20 strength score is not just a +5 to hit. It is the story. It's the physical scar tissue from that time you held the gate alone against an entire horde. The number becomes the proof of the narrative.
But we have to be honest here. Is synthesis a perfect magical solution for everything? Can a really good story just paper over any mechanical weakness in a character's design? Well, as it turns out, the answer is a hard no.
So, this brings us to the million-dollar question.
What happens when your perfectly crafted, story-rich character runs into a threat that their mechanics are just not built to handle?
So one of the sources for this looks at a really popular build called the Avalanche engine. It's an absolute beast, a physical powerhouse. But it has this huge, glaring weakness. It's incredibly vulnerable to mental attacks. And no amount of cool story narration is going to save you when a simple spell leaves you paralyzed. A cool story can't magically patch a real, mechanical hole in your build.
The solution isn't to ditch the idea, but to make it better. You have to harden the engine by actually planning for failure. Step 1, patch the holes. If you have a weak wisdom save, you need to take a feat like Resilient to fix that. Step 2, develop protocols. What's your character's plan when the dragon starts flying? You need to have one. And step 3, define a system restart. That second wind feature isn't just regaining hit points, it's your character cinematically rebooting their system after taking a huge hit.
And this all leads to what might be the biggest shift in thinking. It's about how we as players deal with failure. It's about the psychology of what happens when your perfectly tuned engine finally breaks down in the middle of a fight.
It happens to the best of us. You've got it all planned out. You've got this amazing story woven into your mechanics. And then the dice say no. The engine fails.
Maybe you get stunned, or paralyzed, or charmed. In the cold, hard language of optimizers, your turn gets deleted. You can't do anything. And let's face it, that is probably the most frustrating feeling in the entire game.
But with this new mindset, we can reframe that moment completely. That feeling of powerlessness is no longer just frustrating downtime. It's narrative tension. It's the quiet moment before the big comeback. You're not just sitting there bored, waiting for your turn. You are anticipating that awesome, cinematic power spike when you finally break free and unleash hell.
And that right there is the ultimate goal. True synthesis means you embrace your character's flaws. The optimization, the powerful mechanics, that's what gives your character the strength to survive those flaws, which lets them become the most interesting parts of the story. The point isn't to be an invincible robot. The goal is to be flawed to perfection.